Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live their dream healthy lifestyle. Today, I'm going to be talking about kind of a controversial topic in the health and fitness field, especially when it comes to fitness coaching and just overall health and wellness, which is how to do a GLP-1 the right way. And let me tell you, from my experience, from my research, there is a right way to incorporate a GLP-1 into your routine and a wrong way. And I have kind of found that in society, the wrong way has been glorified a little bit. And I just think there's just a little bit of misinformation when it comes to GLP-1s and people thinking that it's just this magic sauce that's going to change your life. And yes, like, of course it can, but only if you do it in the correct way and to have longevity in your journey. And so today I'm going to be talking all about who should do a GLP-1 versus who should not do a GLP-1, my thoughts and feelings around it that honestly might be a little bit surprising to you. Also, to how to be on a GLP-1 and do it the healthy way, to not completely wreck your metabolism and hormones long term. And then also the proper exit strategy to not gain the weight back. I'm going to be doing a whole comprehensive deep dive into all things GLP-1 and how I view it as a health and fitness coach that helps women lose body fat and also keep it off. And I have been in the fitness coaching space for years now, fitness and nutrition for almost 6 years now, which is pretty crazy. And so we're going to be going into all of that today. But before that, we're going to talk about my highs of the week, which is my rose of the week, and then my thorn of the week, which is my low of the week, as well as my favorites for the week. So let's start off with a high note. So this past weekend, I had my first Golf Girls Society event. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know a little bit about this, but I accidentally started a pretty large now group of women, almost 500 women that are wanting to golf in Arizona. And I decided to do an event with everyone at a driving range. And it was so fun. I had a completely sold out event, which was literally insane. I had no idea that posting a TikTok would get me to this point, but I got to meet everyone. I was a little bit nervous showing up, like hopefully, things go well and people show up and whatever, just, normal imposter syndrome kind of thoughts there. But it was such a good time and I met so many fun women. I'm so excited. We're also doing another 18 hole event now in a couple weeks. So I have a lot of moving parts, but fun stuff. It's so fun to meet these new women and make more friends and stuff. So I had that this past weekend and it was such a fun time. And then afterwards, I wanted to do a little celebratory dinner with my sister. I had a dirty martini or two. They were kind of small. So there's my excuse there. And that was so good. Had some sushi and just had overall a really, really fun weekend. And I'm just so grateful for the community I'm building here. And I am just having such a fun social season of life, which I definitely have had my ups and downs. Sometimes I feel like I'm more isolated and I honestly love being alone. I have for sure developed a love for my own company almost to a fault, but it's really fun too, as well, to meet new people and to have fun things and have conversations. And yeah, especially doing it with something that I really enjoy, like golf. It's been really fun to do that. So that is my high of the week. And then my low of the week, honestly, I couldn't even really think of a low. Nothing was crazy. And I honestly don't even love sharing lows sometimes, but sometimes they're funny or silly. Last week, my pedicure story was pretty funny. If you didn't listen, last week's episode, I talked about my weird pedicure experience. And by the way, my toe is 100% healed. So my hypochondria has now gone away. But I kind of almost have another medical low, I guess you could say. I was saying on last episode that most of my lows are either hypochondria related or they're golf related. So that's kind of the theme. But my low of the week is that so I've talked about this on a couple of different podcasts. So I'll kind of recap what's going on. But my gut health journey went through that whole thing. Part of that was also coming off of hormonal birth control. So I am now 42 days off to be completely exact. And I know this because I have not gotten my cycle yet and I'm just waiting for it to happen. And I have kind of forgotten the just scary part of just not knowing when it's going to hit you. And so for instance, for my event on Saturday, I chose to wear white, which was a pretty brave decision given that I am have no idea when my cycle is coming, but I've had all the symptoms that it's coming, but it hasn't come yet. And I guess I looked looked it up on ChatGPT. And also I've done a lot of research myself and with my certifications and stuff. And I like wasn't very surprised that this is happening to me. However, it still is when you're like in it, it's kind of nerve wracking. Like where is she? So I've had like all these just like symptoms that it's coming, like bloating and water retention and just like feeling ugly. And it just has not come yet. So I'm like, hey girl, where are you at? But I know the second it gets here, I'll be excited, first of all, because I just want these symptoms to go away and we'll be on one step closer to getting this cycle regular again. But I'm just like nervous that it's going to just be a really fun experience for my first one after 7 years of being on birth control, which is amazing. But that was my low of the week. I mean, it's not necessarily a low because it wasn't awful. It was just something that definitely was in the back of my head this week, and the symptoms are just like annoying. So that was my low. My favorite for the week, I have a TV show and I have a food. I feel like I did the same thing this last week, and I can't remember honestly what my food favorite was from last week. I don't even know if I had a food favorite last week. Maybe I just completely made that up, but I'll share both of them. My favorite show from last week was The Traitors. I have been loving this season of Traitors. It has been so good. First of all, in love with Rob, of course, was in love with him during Love Island. Second of all, he is absolutely insane. Like, he's so good at this game, and he's just like classic F-boy material to put on a reality show to manipulate everyone. Like, it's just so funny. I've been watching a couple of shows with my sister, and it's just so fun to watch something with someone and to like live real time react to things. But I have been absolutely obsessed with Traitors. It's so good if you don't watch it. I think we're only like 7 episodes in, so it's nothing crazy. They released a few like at once and then kind of been dripping them out since then. But it is so good, especially if you like reality TV. There's a lot of like reality TV stars on there. And it's just really funny and like well produced. So I have been absolutely loving that. Justice for Lisa Rinna. Lisa Rinna is my queen, and the fact that she got manipulated by Rob is just, unsettling. I like Rob too, of course, like I said. More so because he's gorgeous, not because like I'm happy that he manipulated her and everyone else to get her out. But that was fun. And we've been doing like dinners and stuff and then watching the show. And my other favorite of the week has been Soup. I literally, by saying that that's my favorite, I'm like revealing that I'm like 90 years old, but Soup has been my favorite. I literally am obsessed. Last night I made a lemon orzo chicken soup, and it was so fantastic. I had my parents over. My dad had like 4 bowls. It was amazing. And then my sister made me chicken noodle soup while we watched Tell Me Lies last week, and it was so good. And soup is just such a high volume hack. I always forget, especially if you're making like a broth based soup. It can be super high in protein, super great macros, really fill you up because of all the broth. It's just really good. And I know that this time of year, with it being cold and in a lot of places very wintry and snowy and whatever, soup is a great option, especially for girls that are looking to eat a little bit healthier and track their macros and whatever. I know tracking soup can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if you are like directionally correct with the tracking, I think it's fine, especially because soup isn't necessarily like super high calorie thing, especially if you don't use cream. So there's my 2 cents on soup. But I am excited for today's episode. I think we just dive into the how to do GLP-1s the right way. And I was actually having a conversation earlier today with a client about GLP-1s, and I think it's a really important topic and something that a lot of people look at me or someone that's a fitness coach and they're like, the 2 and 2, like they don't go together. Like, why would you have a fitness coach and go on a GLP-1, or why would you go on a GLP-1 and then hire a fitness coach? Like, it really doesn't make sense. The 2 don't work in tandem. And what I will say is that most of my clients are not on GLP-1s. I've been doing this now since 2020, so a lot of years. And I mean, GLP-1s, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they existed back when I started fitness coaching. And so it was really interesting, kind of like the tone shift when GLP-1s did become more mainstream and just more normalized, and now have continued to be very, very accessible. How the tone has kind of shifted, especially when it is pertaining to fitness coaching and nutrition coaching and like doing it the quote unquote like natural way. And I think that there is definitely a right way to go about it and a wrong way, but I am definitely not like anti GLP-1. I mean, I've been coaching now for 6 years though, and have had plenty of clients lose 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds completely naturally. And I still think that there's a lot of great things that come from losing weight naturally, and it is 100% possible. And so I think that that's kind of my overarching message for this podcast, is that like you don't have to go on a GLP-1 to lose body fat, especially in this day and age where everyone you feel like is on it, everyone and their mother is on it, and you're like, well, like I should just go on it. I'm going to be kind of going over today like who should go on it, who shouldn't go on it. Of course, it's your body. You can do whatever you want, but I just am excited to offer my advice, especially just from anecdotally coaching clients that some of them are on GLP-1s, most of them though are not, and kind of also some of the side effects, things to consider before jumping on one, and knowing that it is a serious thing. Like it is a serious medication, and with any medication there comes risks, and there's, right ways and wrong ways to do a lot of this stuff. So I'm excited to dive into all of that here today. And like I said, like I'm not anti GLP-1. I have a few clients that made the decision to go on a GLP-1 even like before working with me. I've had clients that decided to go on a GLP-1 while working with me, and I'm never going to completely shoot down the idea. Now, I am going to give the pros and cons, and I am going to pretty much direct them in the way that I think would be best for them and their body. And of course, it's a conversation with their doctor as well. So I'm not anti GLP-1, but I am anti using these powerful tools without completely understanding them. So like I said, this starts with a conversation with your doctor. And I've had a lot of clients that get my perspective, and then I give my kind of perspective on things, and then they go to their doctor and have that conversation. But they should never just be a casual decision. And that's kind of where I get kind of a bad taste in my mouth of people being on commercials that are, I mean, have even been like really like big examples for people for a long time, like health and fitness wise. And it makes it a little bit scary in the sense that it is so available and accessible to people. Now, a lot of people have an opinion that like that's amazing and it's great people are losing weight. But I think that the way it's been promoted is like a very casual decision where it shouldn't be just like casually hopping on it, casually hopping off of it. I think that having a really thoughtful medical plan, having the right provider to give it to you is really important, and not just like getting a prescription and having no follow-up. That's where I have kind of an issue with some of these like subscription services, is that they're like where is the support in that? I think that that is where it gets scary, especially when it comes to symptoms and how people's bodies respond. Everyone responds so differently, and having a discussion with your doctor before of like what to expect symptoms wise, what's your health history, what's your relationship with food, what are your training habits, what's your stress, sleep, and hormones like, what's your long-term plan, I think is really important. And it should just be looked at as a part of a strategy, not a whole strategy of how to lose body fat, because I have an issue when people go on it and they're like expecting it to change their life, which again, it can definitely change your life. However, if a doctor just puts you on it and they're not asking like, okay, are you exercising? Are you eating healthy? Are you sleeping? Are you doing any of these basic things? And expecting this drug to be introduced that is just going to completely cause them to lose weight. It ethically and morally, to me, it's like, okay, well, why don't we start with some of these things to get healthier? And that will cause you to probably lose weight instead of just being like, I want to jump to the quick fix. Now, I mean, in 2026, quick fix is on everyone's brain. I mean, from weight loss to Amazon delivery at the door to streaming services, like we all want these things really quickly. And I totally understand that. And it's not sexy to lose weight the old fashioned way. Like it's boring, it's monotonous, it's workouts, it's nutrition. But just because you go on a GLP-1 does not mean those things aren't going to be something you have to do long term in order to actually maintain your weight loss. And so I really think that if you are wanting to do it, I think having a conversation with your doctor, having a conversation with someone like me that can offer my opinion on like whether I think, it is a good candidate, not a good candidate. I am very open and honest. And I mean, if you've asked any of my clients, maybe have had to ask me about like, oh, like my friend's doing it, like, should I look into it? I feel like I am very honest about it. And I'm not just like completely demonizing it. Like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't go on it. You need to lose it the natural way. But I will definitely caution against that. Like, just because you go on a GLP-1, it's not going to fix some things that you have been dealing with your whole life, like your mindset and relationship with food, your routine around health and fitness and exercise, your food choices. It's not going to teach you any of that stuff. It's pretty much just going to be like a band-aid for something that you really need to heal internally and actually get to the root of. Now, if you're healing internally and getting to the root and using that as like a little bit of extra credit, that's where it kind of gets a little bit better in my brain, where of course you're not like relying on it to lose weight, you're relying on these other habits and then using it as a tool to potentially make it a little bit easier for you, or a little bit, calming your cravings and calming some inflammation. Like, there are other great health benefits actually to GLP-1s that people don't talk about aside from weight loss, like decreasing inflammation and stuff. So there are a lot of positive positives and negatives to this. But again, like that conversation with your doctor, I think is really important to have. And a lot of people miss it or don't necessarily think that it's that important. Now let's talk about some good candidates for GLP-1s versus some bad candidates for GLP-1s. So I would say that GLP-1s are not for everyone. If someone comes to me and they want to lose the last 5 to 10 pounds, I will tell them, like, do not go on a GLP-1 because you probably just need to lose a little bit of body fat, build a little bit of muscle. We do not need to go on a GLP-1 in order to do that and risk some of these side effects. And you basically need to build a healthier, better routine, more conducive to that body composition goal than not. Now, if someone has maybe, 100 pounds to lose, they have a lot of health implications, that would be someone that it really could be a life-changing medication to take. And so it definitely depends on the person, on their medical status, the things that they are struggling with, what their blood work looks like, on whether a GLP-1 would be necessary. Where I have an issue is it's the women that are like, I need to lose 5 to 20 pounds. I'm going to just start taking a GLP-1. I would say that it is definitely not needed in that scenario. And of course, I'm kind of talking in black and white, so saying definitely, but in most cases, it's not needed in that. And a lot of people are just kind of jumping to that. Whereas you can definitely get to those goals without going on a medication and kind of risking some of these health things that can happen from it. So some other people that probably should consider not going on a GLP-1 is people looking for a short-term fix. Of course, a GLP-1 is going to literally attract people wanting a short-term fix because that's kind of like why it was created and how it's marketed for a lot of people. And honestly, if you're looking for a short-term fix, it's probably just going to be like a lot of the diets that you've done in the past where you maybe lose the weight and then gain it back because you don't learn anything. You don't actually get to the root of what's going on with you. So having a short-term fix or acting really reactively to this is really important to recognize if you're like ordering a GLP-1 the second you get back from a vacation because you want to slim back down. Like, that would be a bad reason to get on a GLP-1 because you're being reactive based on like what you just did, right? Instead of being more intentional with really thinking it over, talking to your doctor, establishing like, is this something that is actually going to be very beneficial to me health-wise? Weigh out the pros and cons. I think that that is different. And of course, being intentional is much more conducive to someone actually being able to lose the fat and keep it off. Also, too, chronic undereaters or heavy restrictors. So if your metabolism is already shot, adding a GLP-1 on top of that is not going to be the best thing for you, I promise. If you are already really driving your metabolism into the ground and it's already at a low space, adding a GLP-1, you honestly might not see any results from that because your metabolism and your hormones are so shot. So you actually need to do a metabolic reset. You need to do a reverse diet before a GLP-1 would really even work, because what a GLP-1 will do is just make you maybe eat less, but maybe not. Maybe it will just take away your hunger or your hunger cravings. And so it is really hard to say, like, if you're already under eating and you start taking a GLP-1, you're definitely just adding more fuel to that metabolic fire that's going to create a long cycle of trying to get out of. Also, those people that are unwilling to strength train. A lot of people get on a GLP-1 and they do not strength train. And you've probably seen people in your life. I mean, I know I've seen people in the media and in my life as well, that they get on a GLP-1, they don't do any form of strength training, they don't need any sort of protein, and you can see them just becoming gaunt and unhealthy. And it is scary to see. Like that's one thing about the GLP-1 movement that I can definitely tell. I can tell when someone's doing it the healthy way, and I can tell when someone is not doing it the healthy way, which I'll talk about that exact strategy here in a second. But if someone's doing it in the not healthy way of not strength training, not having any protein, they get very gaunt and they look really sickly. Whereas someone that strength trains, they are eating healthy, they're fueling in their body, they're just eating in a calorie deficit with the assistance of a GLP-1, they look healthy, they look glowing. They're not losing a ton of weight very rapidly that's causing these different sort of, not only looks, but also side effects that cause them to feel and look sickly as well. Also too, I would say anyone that is dealing or has dealt with an eating disorder, binge and restrict cycle, yes, this might help you like become not binging or binge restricting, but it's not going to solve the root of why you're binging and restricting. It is only going to kind of put a band-aid over it. And I have a couple of clients that we've had a conversation because they do maybe struggle with the binge restrict mindset. And it's a really hard one to reverse your psychology and completely get rid of. But once you do get rid of it, like you get rid of it. You're not just putting a band-aid on it. Whereas someone that has this binge restrict and they just want to take a GLP-1 to stop doing that, you run the risk of like either becoming very dependent on it or having that band-aid that just gets ripped off once you stop taking the medication and comes back after the medication isn't being taken. And so I think that you have to be prepared to make lifestyle changes, and you have to really assess like, do I need a GLP-1 truly as like extra credit for my weight loss journey? Or do I really need to get to the root about what's going on? And let me tell you, getting to the root of what's going on is not the easier route. Like I will like be honest, like it is hard. Like it's hard to look yourself in the mirror, to look at these habits, to look at these mindsets that maybe you've thought of for years and years and years, and to say, I need to either like work with someone to repair this mindset, or I really need to work with myself to get to the root of why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking. And that's hard work, but it's worth it. It's worth it in the end because you actually are able to retrain your brain, retrain your mind, and it's something you don't need to slap a medication on top of in order to fix. Like it's something that you truly no medication is going to fix the cycle and the relationship with food that you're struggling with currently. So once you've maybe talked to your doctor, decided, am I potentially a good candidate? And again, anyone that wants to lose weight, you can lose weight the natural way. You do not need to go on a GLP-1. I'm more so talking about this message to get it out, the people that are just really eager/curious about a GLP-1, like that's where I'm speaking from. You can lose weight naturally 100%. I mean, time and time again. It's just, hey, this conversation is just so popular right now. So let's talk now about the side effects, like the things that people are not talking about, because you see people losing weight, getting fitter, trimmer, and you're like, oh my gosh, girl, you look amazing. But what people are not talking about are the side effects that come with a GLP-1, and also to the long-term side effects that we don't necessarily know quite yet, which is kind of scary. So some really common ones, and I'm not doing this to fear monger, just to educate here, but some common side effects that can happen are muscle loss, fatigue, GI issues, changes in hunger cues, of course, food aversions. And a lot of times these side effects are happening because your protein is too low, your calories are too low, you're not maybe weight training, you're maybe not dosing correctly. And some of the most common ones that I personally see with people that come to me post GLP-1 is that they have little to no muscle, which is not great, not only from a physical standpoint, because of course, like you can tell when someone has lean muscle tone and they look great and strong and just healthy. And you can tell when someone looks kind of sickly and doesn't have as much muscle from Ozempic or a GLP-1, and it does become a problem, especially long term. a lot of women that are taking GLP-1s, I'm not going to put them all in a box, but they are over the age of 40. And like when women start to get older, they are not able to keep muscle in their body as easily. And if you don't have muscle when you're older, you're at risk for breaking your bones, osteoporosis. So there's a lot of negative side effects that can come from not having as much muscle. And so I really hope in the coming years, the studies do not come out that women are developing this more frequently than not. But honestly, just purely from me looking at society and how a lot of these women are not doing a GLP-1 the right way, I am honestly scared that they are going to be experiencing a lot of these negative side effects from not having as much muscle on their body. So that's just kind of like a longer term one that I could potentially see being a big issue, but one that you can definitely prevent by strength training and stuff, which I'll talk about my formula here in a second on how to do it the right way. But that is just one of the side effects that you definitely have to watch out for and prevent. Fatigue is another one. When you're not eating enough food, when you're not having enough nutrients, you're going to be tired and you're not going to have all the energy. And so making sure you're actually still hitting the right amount of calories, hitting the right amount of macros, using a GLP-1 to maybe curb cravings a little bit and cause you not to maybe have, as much of an appetite. I think that's a kind of a good way to look at it. But when you're really dramatically under eating, even if it's from a GLP-1, you're still going to get tired because your body is literally lacking food. It's lacking energy, and your body needs energy and food to survive. That brings me along to GI issues. So having constipation, diarrhea, bloating, this is something I'm definitely seeing in a lot of people that are taking a GLP-1. And it's very important to work with someone like me or someone that has a lot of knowledge with nutrition to make sure that you're eating the right amount of micronutrients, fiber, even taking some supplements to support some of the digestion, because when your stomach is slower to digest food from a GLP-1, it's not going to, of course, work as it normally would. So you really want to look out for GI issues because that can definitely be exacerbated, especially if you have any underlying GI issues and then you add a GLP-1 on top of it, you're going to be, kind of having a little bit of a dumpster fire when it comes to your GI tract. So you want to make sure that you are, of course, eating the right things, drinking enough water, reducing stress as much as possible, but making sure before you get on a GLP-1 that you don't have any underlying GI issues. If you already have constipation, if you already have diarrhea, if you already have any of the symptoms that I talked about in last episode, and then you add a GLP-1 on top of it, you're going to be pretty uncomfortable. So it's very important to recognize that you have to look at the underlying issues before that. Of course, changes in hunger cues. So maybe not feeling as hungry. That's something, normal. Food aversions, same thing with that. But side effects aren't random. They're feedback based on what the medication is doing to your body. And there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. So let's talk about some things that the GLP-1 medication will fix versus won't fix. And so the myth here is that the GLP-1 will completely solve all of your problems. I'll start taking it, I'll lose body fat, I'll feel healthy, I'll feel well, I'll feel amazing, I'll have this healthy lifestyle. Wrong. That's not going to happen if you don't make changes in your life in order to heal and to actually put yourself in a position that is successful when it comes to taking a GLP-1. And if you're a person that I talked about just a second ago about not being a good candidate, it is not going to fix your problems for sure. But GLP-1s can definitely help with appetite regulation, food noise, portion control because you don't want to eat as much, initial weight loss momentum, which is great. But it is absolutely not going to fix your poor nutrition habits. Not going to fix low protein intake. It's not going to fix your muscle loss. It's not going to fix your hormone dysfunction, your stress, sleep, burnout, cortisol, emotional eating patterns. Like, those are the things that people aren't thinking about. Like, those are GLP-1s are not going to fix that. Potentially they could band-aid some of it, but the second you come off of it, you're going to be struggling with all of that stuff. And so really getting to the root of those things instead of just hopping on the GLP-1 train and putting yourself at risk for all those symptoms that I talked about, getting to the root of these things is really what you have to look at. And it's hard to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I have emotional eating patterns, or hey, I have hormonal dysfunction, or hey, I'm losing muscle because I'm not weight training. It's a lot easier to just say, let's take a GLP-1. And that's why people are doing it. And just because you have a quieter appetite does not mean you're going to have a healthier body. it is going to make it maybe easier to stick to a deficit protocol, but it's not going to fix all of these things that I just mentioned here. So you just listen to all of that. If you do decide with your doctor and you decide you're a good candidate and you decide that a lot of these things I think, I need to get to the root of, or maybe you aren't struggling with any of those things, you just want to use a GLP-1 as a little bit of a boost that you feel aligned with. Here is how to do it the healthy way. And this is what a lot of people get wrong, and they do not know how to GLP-1 the healthy way. So here are the non-negotiables that you need to do in order to GLP-1 the right way. Number one, strength training. You have got to protect your muscle mass. When you get older, especially as a woman, we are not able to build as much muscle and you're not able to keep as much muscle. So you really need to prioritize muscle building, especially if you're in your 20s and 30s. Girl, get up, be weight training 3 to 4 times per week. You do not need to do anything crazy. 3 to 4 times per week is totally enough strength training to build and maintain muscle. I recommend doing a progressive overload program that focuses on that, where you are upping your weights, you're upping your reps every single week, and making sure that you are prioritizing hypertrophy training, which is basically having a stimulus, a little bit of a different stimulus every single week that helps you to build muscle. That is what all of my programs are focused on, is hypertrophy based, which is good for building muscle and making sure you are keeping muscle on your body. The next thing is adequate protein intake. 1 gram per pound of body weight is a kind of a good rule of thumb. Now, if you have a lot of weight to lose, I would say 1 pound or 1 gram per pound of your goal body weight. So if your goal weight is 140 pounds, 140 grams is a good way to look at it. Of course, that kind of goes hand in hand with strength training. If you have enough protein, if you're strength training, you're going to be able to keep muscle. You want to make sure you're keeping muscle mass, not only from the physical standpoint, but also from a metabolic standpoint. When you lose muscle, you lose the opportunity of burning calories at rest. Literally, by having muscle on your body, you're burning a ton of calories just sitting on the couch. And if you don't have that muscle on your body, you're going to have to crawl yourself out of a pretty big metabolic hole come when you get off of a GLP-1 inevitably. So the next thing is enough total calories. So it kind of goes along with the strength training, kind of goes along with protein, but making sure you're having enough calories. A lot of women go on a GLP-1, completely lose their appetite, and all of a sudden they look and they're eating 800,000 calories per day, or a pretty low amount for their body. While you might lose weight pretty rapidly at first with that, you're going to plateau pretty quick and you're going to experience a pretty good amount, most likely, of hormonal dysregulation and metabolic dysregulation. So I love when a client comes to me, or if they already are working with me, and we go into a healthy deficit and use the GLP-1 again as like that extra credit to help them maybe reduce a little bit of inflammation and curb cravings a little bit. And we're still eating, though, a very healthy amount of calories. We're eating an amount of calories that they're not going to completely destroy their metabolism and experience a lot of these hormonal symptoms that no one wants to experience. Okay. And so we want to make sure you are eating enough calories and not just completely listening to your body in a sense and slashing calories because you're like, I'm not hungry. Like, I'm not going to eat. Like, yes, that will probably happen when you are on a GLP-1, like we talked about, the normal symptoms that a lot of people get from GLP-1s, but you really have to hedge against that if you don't want to get super fatigued and start to experience a lot of these negative side effects that do come with it. The next thing is micronutrient support. So that comes along kind of with having enough calories, is having enough micronutrients. So making sure you're getting a carb, fat, fiber each meal, and a source of protein, of course. So the fiber would be kind of that micronutrient, or even just, having a fruit and veggie each meal. That's a great way to look at it. A lot of people go on a GLP-1 and they're like, yay, maybe have less portions of unhealthy foods. Like, no, that's not the way to look at it. It's like, how can I still fuel my body in the best way possible while being on this medication? Of course, working with your doctor on the slow dose progression and making sure that you're not just, taking some random dose. Monitoring biofeedback as well, looking at energy levels, looking at your hunger levels, looking at your stress levels, looking at your sleep, how all those things are affected, because just because you're on a GLP-1 and maybe you're not as hungry, you still will experience some of these biofeedback symptoms. And you really have to make sure that you're looking at those, not just the scale, not just what your progress photos are, but if you're dropping weight too rapidly, you're putting yourself at risk for a lot of long-term damage and things that's, great, yay, you fit into a new size of pants, but you've also put yourself in a really poor spot metabolically that's going to be really hard to sustain that weight loss. And I'm not saying all this to be negative. I'm saying this to be real, that you have got to do it the healthy way or else you're going to be disappointed long term. And think about it as like medication is the training wheels. It's not the whole bike. You have to have the bike in a great condition in order for the training wheels to work. So the bike is the whole system. It's making sure you're eating enough protein, having whole foods, making sure you're strength training, but you also can have kind of that GLP-1 in the background, but it's not the full thing. It's the training wheels. So let's say you go on a GLP-1, you're doing it the healthy way. Or maybe you're on a GLP-1, you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing any of those things. Tomorrow or today is the best day to start. But let's say you get to your end goal. You're feeling good. You're feeling like you've lost the amount of body fat that you want to. Where people fail is the exit strategy. Whether you're on a GLP-1 or you're not on a GLP-1 and you finish a fat loss phase, having the proper exit strategy is absolutely vital. Yet so many people neglect the exit strategy because maybe they don't know they need to have an exit strategy, or they just are done and they are burned out and they just don't care anymore, which is a recipe for you gaining all the weight back. So having the proper exit strategy means slowly but surely upping your calories through a reverse diet and making sure you're doing this strategically. That way you're not just like saying, hey, I'm just stopping the GLP-1 or I'm just getting off of it and I'm going to go back to my old ways of eating. That's where really repairing that relationship with food and stuff is really, really, really important, is that you do that along with coming off of it. That way you're not just like, oh my gosh, I'm coming off of it. I'm now starving. I'm eating all these foods. I had no education on nutrition. I have no idea how to eat. All I learned how to do was eat less, when in reality, like, you shouldn't be eating less for a long period of time. Anyways, you can see how this kind of creates a lot of problems if you don't get to the root mentally of what's going on with you. And then you get on GLP-1, you come off of it and you're like, oh my gosh, all hell is going to break loose. So having the proper exit strategy metabolically, but also relationship with food wise, getting a really good feel for how am I feeling relationship with food wise? Do I feel weird now around food? Do I feel any sort of food guilt? How are my hunger hormones looking? Because they're going to come back, and they can either come back with a vengeance, or they can come back and you can have a great exit strategy where you're upping your calories, and it's good that those hunger hormones are coming back because you know how to fuel your body and you also know how to maintain these results. So gradually building up your food, increasing calories strategically, keeping strength training central and part of your routine. And the reason why people gain weight is because of the lack of exit strategy. Your metabolism has been suppressed for a long period of time. When you're on a GLP-1 for a long period of time, you're probably eating lower calories than your maintenance. I mean, if you're losing fat, you're eating lower calories than your maintenance. And what happens is that your body adapts. Just like it adapts when you're in a calorie deficit without a GLP-1, it adapts when you're in a calorie deficit on a GLP-1. So that's why you need to reverse diet, is because your metabolism now has down-regulated to a lower amount, which will long term, if you keep eating low calorie, have metabolic and hormonal repercussions from that. But if you don't do any sort of reverse diet, you're pretty much just going back up to maintenance calories and you're going to probably gain body fat. So that's why you kind of need to bridge that gap and build those hunger hormones back up. Do that strategic reverse diet. That way you can make sure too you're building any sort of muscle that maybe you've lost back and putting yourself in a good spot long term metabolically. And I promise you that coming off the right way is going to be way more important than losing the fat fast. Like, you want to make sure you have a long-term strategy rather than just the short-term, I want to lose 15, 20 pounds. Like, not worth it long-term for the repercussions that I talked about there. So kind of going over everything today, I definitely believe like GLP-1s aren't good. They aren't bad. You just have to be educated on how they could potentially work for you if you're a good candidate. But like, at the end of the day, you can for sure lose weight the natural way. I know that there's so many people losing weight with the help of GLP-1, and that's great. But I think that it has been a little bit too normalized, a little bit too accessible. And if you're not learning how to live a healthy lifestyle at the end of the day, like, you are going to need that knowledge whether you're on a GLP-1 or you're not on a GLP-1, in order to be healthy, in order to live a long, fruitful, amazing life where you're not paying for medical bills at some point that is a result of not taking care of your body, you know? So I think that hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully I didn't fear monger too much, whatever. I honestly just wanted to be super open and vulnerable and honest. And, you know, being a health and fitness coach with the day and age of Ozempic is definitely a little bit jarring. And it's like, whoa, is Ozempic taking my job? But I think the more that it has been normalize and stuff. I mean, I've seen so many people deal with these negative side effects that then come to me and they need help digging themselves out of this metabolic hole. And so I for sure want to prevent that for you, and I want to make sure that you understand why, and if you know that's something that you want to do, like answering those questions for yourself and not just getting on it willy-nilly, and really doing that research and having good conversations with people that really know what they're doing. And so I hope this was helpful. I hope this was a good take from a fitness professional that has worked with so many women throughout the years and losing weight with Ozempic, without Ozempic, or GLP-1, and being, you know, just open and vulnerable with this conversation. So I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things, and I will see you all next week. Bye.